1990s and has quit working. Quotes are A, Daniel's Discount, $664, Bridgeville Appliance, $599, Home Depot, $608, Lowe's, $630. So it looks like Bridgeville Appliances is the lowest.
I'll make a motion to purchase a refrigerator for the township building from Bridgeville Appliance for $599.
You stupid.
I'll second that.
More to get it here.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Travis?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Riskin?
Yes.
Item 14, approve, deny LSA grant funding resolution for either House Point or Maple Heights Park, formerly known as the Knight Site off of Maple Avenue. So, every year during this month, the board has the engineers and the staff look at ideas that we could, use as a LSA grant funding option. And thank goodness to the county, they've, blessed our township with grants every year, I believe, since 2016. So this year, the team has put together two options. One would be for the House Point project initiative, and number two they came up with a concept of refurbishing the Maple the Nike site off of Maple Street, doing some conceptual plans, some earthwork, demolishing the old Nike site building, and starting on a venture on that park, or excuse me, on that site. So any conversations can we ensue?
Sure, if you wouldn't mind me talking on it for a second. Regarding Pulse Point, which I think Terry will get to later in discussion, at her meeting, what she relayed to me was the county was happy with it. In fact, they wanted it to be theirs. They were talking about paying for it, managing it, basically taking it out of our hands. So Terry will get to that. So because of that, I was talking with Supervisor Darren. She said, well, let's get an idea for another project. So me and Terry were brainstorming, and we came up with the little Nike site. Let's do something with that. Let's get all those old structures demolished. Let's take out the fence. Let's clear and grub that whole site. Let's get it full of grass. Let's have some parking and throw a walking trail up there. And just something clean and simple to clean it up. And the idea at this point is the most basic park, but it's basically a sandbox with land for future additions to it. But something basic, a place for people to go picnic at, watch the stars, look around, just a little, just doing something with it. So the idea with this is, let's shoot for it, see if it comes at anything, and then gives us something to work on in the future. So at this point, I talked to Terry about it. She said she could handle most of the grant application. What she'd need from me would be an estimate and also just a conceptual plan, which definitely be able to get put together before the time frame to submit. So.
And so what we're looking for, just to clarify, is a approve deny of one of these options tonight. So we're asking you to choose Pulse Point or the Maple Heights concept to put the grant application in for one of those options.
Correct. So it's looking for.
You gotta get those buildings.
Yeah, it's looking for a resolution.
All over them and they're a health hazard.
Terry, the motion is going to be for a resolution because a resolution needs provided as part of the application. So I guess the discussion on your guys' end is which one do you want to go with, and then approving the resolution.
So board, how do you feel about, obviously the Pulse Point, if we went for that, that's a smaller dollar amount, because I think that initiative is somewhere around $20,000. This, however, is bigger. What would the cost, do you have any idea in a conceptual?
Well, I mean, that's really up to the board. If you just tell us, are we looking for 50% with a 50% match? Are we, it depends how much this park project would want to be something the board wants to pursue in the future. I'd say the less money, the more the township's willing to provide, probably the better chances of getting the LSA grant. So
Heather, excuse me a second, Heather, if they may have to look into what's, and Mr. Spar may be able to tell you, because they the ones took the night things over, he was a supervisor, what part of that ground is contaminated. Because there is part of that ground that can never be disturbed.
And that was at
It's in
another
the-
meeting.
I believe the legal document, is not mistaken, right, Larry?
What, George?
That parts of that Nike site cannot be disturbed, that ground, when you guys took it over.
Yeah, parts of it.
It's in the legal documents that it can never be disturbed.
Is there a time limit for this, is it gonna take grant?
Well, so if we need to apply as soon as possible. If we got the grant, we can't even use that money until probably next October, because it's not until September that the county gets their contract with the state figured out, and then they're able to release the money, so in an ideal world, construction could maybe begin in October, but then we have 3 years, I believe it is, to do something with that money once we have it, so.
My opinion is to maybe put a, $200,000 toward a project like this, or, excuse me, ask for funds in that amount, mainly to take down the building and then do some earthwork there. I mean, whether or not a park or anything ever goes up there, that's an actual need. And that's something I know this board has talked about for years. So whatever those costs would be and to do dirt work, that's what my one opinion is.
Do you think these grants will require a match? LSA normally requires a match.
Correct,
So if your number is 200,000 to do this, township would have to put 100 up.
I need to check to make sure, I believe they like a match, they request what the match is from the township,
For reading the grant, a match is not necessary, but from talking to the other engineers about how it works, you kinda gotta
Put
put
you in a
up
better
some match.
position.
You typically are in a better position with the board.
So,
Well, you can say what the match would be, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to accept it.
right,
You might just consider, that you are asking for 200,000 and you'll put up 50,000 on it.
And the resolution that we're asking you to consider tonight doesn't specify how much we're asking for or how much we're gonna have to cost. The issue is that in order to apply for this grant funding, we just need proof that the board is allowing us to put the grant in.
So there's no dollar amount, you just need to get the.
Tonight, we do not need a dollar amount, we just need your approval to put in a grant application.
okay.
And
well,
the monies would be worked out with the engineers.
As part of we're in a budget process right now that we're gonna have to start looking at numbers. The question is, what are we putting, or is there anything big on our project list for 22 that we could aspire to? I know that we've spent a significant amount of money on main arteries into the township, and we've been successful in completing those. So the question is, what are we going to do in 22? I think if we, yes, Frank?
You have 3 years to use the funds, so, you have some time to use them. It's not a 22 issue per se, it's within the next 22, 23, 24.
Thank you. We've always been told that if you don't use the money timely, your likelihood for future grants might not be there. So, we've been pretty decent on using them within a good timeframe. It's all been sewer related, mostly. So,
My thought is they should proceed with it. You should keep us updated with some kind of a concept that you're doing so we can come up with a number that we all agree on.
Absolutely, yeah. This is, like I said, this is just allowing us to put the application together and start putting those plans together. Just need your permission to do that.
but don't we have to, when we present this, if this is chosen, we present this, doesn't there have to be some type of a dollar figure connected with a conceptual plan?
Yeah, there would be an estimate of the project costs.
So what I wanna propose to you all is, so I threw that number out arbitrarily, but what would, we've done some, we had did we do an estimate for the middle school demolition, or that was given to us? that, do you remember, how much was that?
One on 88,
Yes,
650,000.
okay. When we, what do you project a building like the night site at?
There's several buildings up there.
My question is, why couldn't we utilize them buildings? I mean, they're, Rick and I looked at, aren't they 12-inch solid poured concrete walls?
Most of them gotta come down, there's a couple you could make some, it depends what concept they come up with.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't go with, I mean, that one big metal structure up there would be a nice observation tower, but, it's a liability for the township right now, somebody's gonna get hurt up there. I think it should come down, I would ballpark at it, $200,000 for demolition would probably be on the high side. I have no idea if there's asbestos up there or not. That's another problem.
Probably is.
There's kids playing up there all the time.
If Gary says we don't have to, honor that match we were saying, then I don't think we can hurt ourselves.
I think you're gonna decide how much money you're willing to put into the project, because that will go enhance your ability to get a LSA grant. I can make bigger match not to exceed $50,000, based on what numbers Sean's gonna come up with. But whatever you submit to them, you better have a dollar amount in there from the township, or that's gonna get thrown in the wasteful basket. And they get $30 million worth of requests for $6 or $7 million. So, and then they prioritize those requests.
And the matches
Sewers
due,
are the highest, and we've seen that.
the matches due when you use it or after the job's completed, then you apply for those grants. When do we come up with the match? In those 3 years?
Yeah, it's, when you use the money.
It's run through redevelopment authority.
Gary,
Money.
Gary, would you think of what Mr. Paul said about part of the property being contaminated up there?
Well,
Might
there's,
be-
I'm familiar with the deed, I know what the covenants say, I've looked at them a number of times. There are restrictions on building, and there's definitely restrictions on drilling down into the groundwater. The whole essence of that cleanup is they don't want to disturb, the DEP doesn't want us to disturb any of the groundwater, because that's where the contamination is. But it's fine for parks, public recreation, anything on the surface. It's the drilling down into the groundwater that's the
It's
problem.
known to, it's known that there's contaminated ground up there, and you want to get rid of those buildings, to make them more safer. Would that help our?
The ground is
grant?
clean.
But, I mean, would that help
It's
our
not,
grant?
it's not contaminated. That was the whole essence of the engineering that went through, and they gave it a clean bill on the surface. It's the groundwater that's contaminated. So there's a restriction on being able to drill down in foundations, things like that.
I have another thought, I don't know how the board feels about this, but if this is something that we would be blessed to be granted a, grant with, could it be a place for the township, our township residents, obviously, but for anybody who wanted to go, you know, for a viewing spot? I mean, it's one of the highest.
It is the highest.
And it's-
It is the highest. In Pittsburgh.
So would that be part of, could that be part of the application process is a, you know?
Observatory.
Yes, and like something that, a public, destination point for anyone to enjoy that just happens to be located here in our township. What do you all think? Would that be part of something we could ask for and as an incentive to say this could be a beautification for the area on a larger, wider scale?
I think the footprint's big enough up there, you can put another field up there yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts?
No, that'd be great.
Okay, so I would, oops, go ahead.
Let's go with your 200 and put 100 match if we don't have to do it. If we got 2 years, 3 years. 2 years, I'm sure we can budget that, and if we can't, we come down on the match. Let's see if we get it.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve having our staff move forward with preparing an LSA grant funding resolution for a conceptual idea called Maple Heights Park. This would be formerly known as the Nike site off of Maple Avenue. with a, dollar figure of approximately $200,000.
Well, I would make it a contribution not to exceed 100,000. They may ask for $500,000 from the grant, depending what the cost is. I mean, the LSA committee is just gonna see, oh, this township's willing to put 100,000 in this project. Let's don't
Okay.
call it a match.
Okay.
Because they'll say, well, that means we can only give them 100,000.
Okay. So adding on to that with a pending contribution from Union Township of approximately $100,000,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed $100,000. So that's a motion.
I'll second that motion for the Maple Heights Park, for the match not to exceed $100,000, and for Terry and Sean to proceed with the grant. And conception.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan? Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Item 15, approve, deny, Gary Gladys working with Parks and Recs Department in plan